Growing up with Toxic Family, part 18. We ended part 17 with my sister lying to me about the bank accounts. Here it is, I was an 18-year-old kid with 2 children in a house with no heat. And I needed my inheritance money from my sister, and she tells me the lie that there was only one bank account with my name on it, which may have been true, but considering the fact that my mother died when I was only 13, more than likely it's no way that my name would have been on any bank accounts. So she's saying my name is only on one. Yeah, it's not a lie, but that doesn't mean that these bank accounts with this money in it is not mine. Now, she says it's only one bank account with my name on it, only says one thing. It's multiple accounts, but that's her money. She taking it, because my name ain't on it. Now, the thing about this, when you analyze this situation, it's not like my mother died, I went to a foster home, and this was a foster parent doing this to me. This was my sister, my older sister, that done this. Mind you, she had been robbed me for the last 5 years since my mother died. And here it is, I'm in this bad situation with my family. Her family is living good off my money. Now, the thing about this that I thought about, back then, as that young child, I didn't know how much money it actually was. All I know is that over the years, numerous family members had told me it was thousands and thousands of dollars in numerous bank accounts. That's all I knew. Now, when I started really investigating this just a few months ago, and I found out that it was 100,000 plus. But then, after the initial investigation, looking into all this, I went back and looked again and seen that this money could have been $200,000+. Like I told you in part 17. But one of the things that I didn't think about then was the fact that when my mother passed away, that money was still in the bank accounts. So it was still drawing interest for the 5 years before I turned 18. So therefore, the money could have even been another $50,000, $60,000 more than what I thought it was. You know, when you start analyzing this situation, man, and everything that happened, you know, it's no way none of it should have happened, regardless to how much money it was. The fact that this woman was getting a check from me every month for years. It was no way any of that was supposed to happen. But it did. And the thing about it is, she can deny how much money it was. She could tell the lie to people around her. But when we start to analyze the money and how it was spent and how long this woman lived off this money without a job, you gotta start questioning the amounts and how much it really was. See, let's start from 1983 when my mother was sick. All the drama that my sister started with all the family, telling lies so bad that numerous family members almost lost their life because of her lies. You gotta really question why she was doing all this. See, all of this that she done was about the money. That's it. That's all this was about. That's why she kept the drama going. Because as long as it was drama, people wanted to stay away. And when they was away, she was planning. She was getting my mother to sign paperwork, putting everything in her name. You gotta really question the amount of money, because nobody would go through all of that just for a few $1,000s. But see, when you start looking at hundreds of thousands of dollars, it takes it to a whole nother level, especially for somebody like her. Since she was grown, she had been on welfare. She never had a job, never had no money. So when she see these numbers like this, she gonna do everything she can to get this money. Think about it. People almost lost their lives because of her drama. She kept going. Just look at this. After my mother passed away, all the family says what? Everything would go to me. I was the only child. Everybody else was grown. They said everything go to me. Money in the bank accounts, the insurance money, the house, all her belongings, it's all mine. So what happens now? Now she got to come up with a way that she can get control of me to have control of the money. So what does she do? We got the custody hearing. Now, when the paperwork comes to my mother's house, we still stand there. She get the paperwork and she telling people the time and date of the hearing. She tells them the date, but she lies about the time. See, she tell everybody it's at 10 o'clock, when in fact it's at 9 o'clock, so when anybody show up, it's over with. Nobody was there but me and her. So therefore, she ends up with custody because she knows, like I said before, in Growing Up with Toxic Family Part 1, if you hadn't seen that video, you should go back and watch it. Check it out on YouTube. My YouTube channel is Toxic Family _2244. Subscribe to the channel. Check out part 1 all the way up to 17 if you have not seen it. And you'll see the things that this woman done all the way up to this point. Now, the thing of it is, when she tells the lie about the time, nobody else was at court. Why would she lie about the time? Because if everybody is there and the judge got to analyze each individual to see who is best for me to go live with, 9 times out of 10, he would have not picked her. Again, as I said, she did not have a job. She did not have a husband, so she didn't have a family. She didn't even have a car. So she had to tell a lie to get custody of me to have control of the money. Now, once she gets custody, she got control of the money. The first thing I seen as a child her doing, she was out, as I said, partying. She hanging out at the after-hour spot, Stokes. That's all I kept hearing, Stokes, Stokes, Stokes. She on the phone telling everybody how she turning up, partying at Stokes. Now, I'm seeing her popping bottles, like I said. But then, you know, she going out, hanging out, popping bottles. She need new clothes. She got to get fresh. She got to look good hanging out. You see, and one of the things my brother June told me, he said, hey, she's spending that money. I heard him mention it to people. She's spending that money. Now, to her, being somebody who never had no money on welfare all her life, she was living good. You know, she got money, she popping bottles, she hanging out. That's what she did. Now, we moved from my mother's house into her house. As I said, she started charging me $200 a month rent, and at that time, 1984, $200 a month rent could have rented an entire house in the inner city of Detroit. But this is what she charging her 14-year-old brother. Okay, again, she's robbing me. Now, the thing of it is all the excess money from my checks that I didn't spend was supposed to go into a separate bank account for me, okay? Now, I ends up staying at her house for 9 months. Go back to my mother's old house. Now I'm at my mother's old house, I ain't got no rent to pay. But we going through a rough time because she's still getting my check. Now, I gotta call her and give her every detail about why I need $40 or $50. But we over here starving. My son ain't got no diapers, but I gotta explain every detail to her why I need some money out of my own check. But you gotta really question what kind of person would do this, you know? And when you start to analyze it, even after me being there for only 3 weeks, the water turned off. And when I tell her about the water being turned off, she don't take some of the money out my check and go pay the bill. No. What did she do? Nothing. I had to figure out a way to get the water on. What kind of person does this to a 15-year-old child with a baby, and you got his money and getting a check for him every month? Come on, you got to think about this now. See, because during her time hanging out at the after-hours spot, she met some man. Because the boyfriend she had after we first moved in her house, he didn't stay long. He was gone before I was. Took his car and everything and was gone. So she hanging out at the after-hours spot, and she meets another guy. Now, the thing about it is that she meets this guy at the after-hours spot. This guy, he works at the plant, okay? And he likes to hang out at the after-hours spot. That's where they met at. But he likes to powder his nose, okay? Now, we've seen many people who like to hang out and party, and they powder their nose when they party. We've seen that. Now, the thing about this is, this man that she met, he knows my niece's husband, Jack. Now, my sister Trisha, for many years, around that time, she was going around saying that Jack was a crackhead. Now, I've been knowing Jack for many, many years. I've been around him, I've seen him, I've talked to him, and I never heard nobody else say Jack was a crackhead. But her, my sister, the only one that's ever said it. But she goes as far as to say that it's no way my niece could be with this man and he on crack if she ain't smoking crack too. Oh yeah, this is her story. Now, I ain't never known my niece to do nothing. smoke, drink, nothing, especially at that point. So, to hear her saying this, once again, it's just another negative story about somebody else. But since she's saying it, that my niece is using because she with this man, so that means we can say the same thing about her because she hanging out and messing with this man who potting his nose. There was many people that seen them at the after hours, and they was talking about it. So it was a rumor going around that she was using. Now, when you start analyzing her actions towards me, that 15-year-old kid that didn't have food or the water being turned off, and she did nothing, what kind of mind state is a person who does that? Somebody that's on drugs. You gotta look at this. You see? Now, true enough, it didn't last that long and she didn't get just strung out, but the fact that she was using. Now, she ends up meeting this man who she ended up marrying, Ron. When she meets Ron, she gets pregnant. This was around the same time that I asked her for my whole check for the first time in years. And when I did, she stopped being my guardian. And when she stopped being my guardian, remember, all of a sudden, she wanted to come around me. Now, as I said before, when they coming around me and taking me to their house, how I seen them living. They balling. They living their best life. And Ron, he walking around, like I said, talking this big money stuff like he just got money. And that's what I took it as. It was him financing all this, okay? But, like I said before, every time this woman tells on herself, because when her and Ron divorces years later, the story she was telling everybody about Ron is that Ron was faking like he had money the whole time. She went on to say even the credit cards Ron was using was credit cards that was in his father's name. So if he ain't had no money, okay, and you had never had a job in your life at that point, and you pregnant, and when you listen to her talk and tell stories about any and everybody that she know or hear about that ain't got a job or ain't working for a while or been laid off or whatever their situation, she talks about how bad they doing. So that means what? She was doing bad all them years she didn't have a job. So how is they living their best life? How is they out here shopping on a regular basis, eating out on a regular basis? How? How was they buying new furniture, buying new cars? How was they doing it? See, this is when the bulk of my money was being spent. They was living their best life off my money, her and her family. So, me and my family end up in this house with no heat. They living their best life. See, none of this was even supposed to happen. See, when I turned 18, what she could have done was been like, hey, you know what? We've been living good off this money all these years. I'm going to take half of whatever left, give it to him, and I'm keeping the rest for myself. That would have changed me and my family's life, no matter how much it was. Or she could have said, hey, I'm keeping the money in the bank accounts, but what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna get him the money that was left over from his checks. You know, that was, like I said, $9,100. Back in '87, it would have been like getting $24,000 a day. It would have changed the reality of our life. But what happened? She took it all. She didn't care nothing about how bad we was doing, how bad we needed that money. She had the money and was living good and was gonna continue to live good off of it. Stay tuned. Growing Up with Toxic Family, part 19, it gets a whole lot deeper.